Welcome to Trimming the Movie Fat, the podcast where we trim films from franchises that don't belong. I'm Stephen Nicholson.
And I'm Paul Nicholson.
And over our next two shows, we're pouring a martini, vodka, shaken, not stirred, and checking out two James Bond movies, which are true one-offs. George Lazenby's sole Bond outing, 1969's On Her Majesty's Secret Service, and Sean Connery's unofficial James Bond swan song, 1983's Never Say Never Again. So Paul, we're going to do one of those movies today and come back and do another next week. Which one will we start with?
On Her Majesty's Secret Service.
Going with the better of the two, going further back in time. Okay, On Her Majesty's Secret Service. And now a little bit more about the Bond franchise before we get to the movie.
Commander James Bond is a character created by the British journalist and novelist Ian Fleming in 1953. He is the protagonist of the James Bond series of novels, films, comics, and video games. Fleming wrote 12 Bond novels and 2 short story collections. His final 2 books, The Man with the Golden Gun, 1965, and Octopussy and the Living Daylights, 1966, were published posthumously. The character is a Secret Service officer, code number 007, residing in London but active internationally. In 1962, Eon Productions, the company of Canadian Harry Saltzman and American Albert R. Cubby Broccoli, released the first cinema adaptation of a Fleming novel, Dr. No, featuring Sean Connery as 007. Connery was the first of 7 actors to play Bond on the cinema screen, 6 of whom appeared in the Eon series of films. As well as looking different, each of the actors has interpreted the role of Bond in a different way. Besides Connery, Bond has been portrayed on film by David Niven, George Lazenby, Roger Moore, Timothy Dalton, Pierce Brosnan, and Daniel Craig.
We've jumped in our Aston Martin and are ready to hit the accelerator. Let's check out On Her Majesty's Secret Service.
If you can't beat 'em, join 'em. If you're scared to fight it out, watch him and watch out. If you think your girl's a good looker, take a good look at this guy's dolls.
My name's Bond, James Bond.
The new Bond. The different 007 on Her Majesty's Secret Service. The new star, the different Bond. The name's Lazenby. George Lazenby. And he's got it made. The different Bond woman. The name's Rigg. Diana Rigg. This one's got class and style. Telly Savalas. Gabrielle Pizzetti. And 007 times more excitement. If you think you know your Bond, think again. This one's different.
It's true!
Drop everything. Try and make it. Marvelous is the password for the different Bond. As the man says,
This never happened to the other fella.
Before you got involved with 007, what was your take on the franchise? Did you enjoy the movies? Were you a fan of Connery's work?
Absolutely. In fact, I was more than a fan. I was envious of him. I had a date one time. Going in, I had a 90% chance of getting lucky. I think I had about a 21% coming out. I thought, geez, if I ever get the chance to be that guy, I'm going to be him. And then it came along.
were you intent on getting the role? I mean, were you really hungry for this, or was it kind of like happenstance and man on the street in the right place at the right time?
I wasn't intent on getting the role. I never thought I'd get the role. First of all, I'd never met an actor. So, and the ones that I'd heard about that were in the clubs that I could get into were all broke. So I didn't really want to be an actor. I liked the idea of lots of money and lots of girls and the lifestyle where James Bond would get me. I lied my way in there.
On Her Majesty's Secret Service was released in 1969 and directed by Peter Hunt. Agent 007, George Lazenby, and the adventurous Tracy DiVincenzo, Diana Rigg, join forces to battle the evil Spectre organization in the treacherous Swiss Alps. But the group's powerful leader, Ernst Stavro Blofeld, Telly Savalas, is launching his most calamitous scheme yet, a germ warfare plot that could kill millions. The movie grossed $82 million internationally on a budget of $8 million, so it made over 10 times its budget. Ratings-wise, the movie has a 81% fresh Rotten Tomatoes critic score, a 64% audience score on IMDb. It has a 6.7 out of 10 IMDb audience rating and 61 out of 100 critic metascore. Here's a movie fact for you. The theme, "We Have All the Time in the World," was the last thing that Louis Armstrong ever recorded. He died 2 years later. It is also the first theme song in the film franchise not to include the movie's title as part of the lyrics. And look out for this movie mistake. Bond's Aston Martin's tires screech repeatedly on the loose sand on the beach at the beginning of the movie. In reality, they would not make this sound. In summary, George Lazenby's only appearance as 007 is a fine entry in the series, featuring one of the most intriguing Bond girls in Tracy DiVincenzo, breathtaking visuals, and some great ski chases.
I remember back in the 1990s, I'm sure I'd went away on a holiday somewhere, maybe 1993, coming back, and while I was away, you'd bought two things. One was Heart-Shaped Box, the CD single by Nirvana, and the other was the Pan and Scan on Her Majesty's Secret Service video. Is that right?
Yeah, and funnily enough, quite ironic, we were talking about videos, actually bought Never Say Never Again at the same time as well.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, because you couldn't
I forgot about that one.
Get them it was really hard to get them at the time.
Because I'm pretty sure, yeah, it wasn't one that was really played all that often on TV. So I'm sure the first time I ever watched it was on video, the one you bought there, and it was the edited version of the movie as well, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm. No, I was just going to say that at the time you didn't know it was the edited version because you only had seen that one. It wasn't until the DVD came out you realised that they'd taken about maybe 5 minutes out of it. Maybe something like that.
Yeah, I was trying to think the other day the scenes that are missing from it. 'Cause I think in subsequent releases on DVD, Blu-ray, digitally, it is the full uncut version, which comes in at, I think, 2 hours 20, something like that.
Yeah,
which was longer for a Bond movie. Bond movies normally come in about 2 hours. And do you remember the scenes that were missing from the cut one?
So I think it was just the bit where he goes to Switzerland. Is it? I can't remember the person's name. He goes out for lunch. Is it Gumbold or somebody? Is it Gumbold? He goes to like his office.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he goes to his office, and when he leaves to go out for lunch, he goes into his office and takes and his little Bond camera takes photos of, is it like Blofeld's ideas or something, or Blofeld?
No, it's it's the lawyer. He goes in, and remember he gets the photocopier type thing from the building site sent over on the crane, and he's photocopying all the documents, and that was obviously quite novel at the time to have a machine like that. Yeah,
I always wondered how he took a risk throwing that big massive box. I mean, into the crane because it was quite a drop, and he just went out and threw it in. And then his pal
yeah, you're forgetting one thing. He's Bond. He was never going to miss.
That. Yeah, you never saw that until the DVD because you never knew that was. But I remember seeing the film in the late 80s on TV, but it was one of the ones that was kind of slated all the time, and you never, because we were used to that one formula, we never really liked it because it was so different, almost like 60s hippie, drug-induced stuff with the colours and all that, so you didn't really appreciate it at the time, of course. As time's gone by, I've got a totally different opinion on it now.
This never happened to the other fella.
Yeah, I mean, before I was getting into that, I was going to say, I think off the top of my head, before we leave the subject, the other missing scenes where the kind of Bond's sidekick, Campbell, being, I remember he tries to, on the cable car to go up to Pete's Gloria, and the guard stops him from going up there, and I am pretty sure that, I could be wrong, Bond goes to visit M in his house. I'm sure that scene is not in the cut version.
Unusually small for them fellas, Polychloris.
I wasn't aware that your expertise included Lepidoptera.
We've kind of come round to this. I think when we got to the 90s, we done a total sea change on this. I think we both loved this movie. And, you know, one of the big changes that was made from the previous Bond movies to this one was George Lazenby. His one and only time playing James Bond. How well do you think he acquits himself in the role?
I think he does reasonably well, actually. I think he was slated at the time because I don't think the press liked him and his colleagues liked him.
He was really difficult. It's not for nothing that they didn't offer him any sequels. I mean, he was just difficult because I think he needed help. Not in the acting. He was really quite good, wasn't he? And attractive and sexy and all those things, but just difficult off stage. He kind of thought he was a film star immediately and started throwing his weight around.
When he was doing a scene with Diana Rigg, who's obviously an established actress, and he'd never acted before, that he'd deliberately ate garlic because it was like a kissing scene with her to annoy her, all these sort of things. But I think he does a good job. I mean, he's really good at I think what got him it was he was really good with the physical scenes, the fighting scenes. He was really good.
Gabe Crusher, I'll leave you to tidy up.
He was good, and I think by his own admission, he said that his attitude was poor at the time. He thought he was like, you know, he was treated a bit like the Beatles, and he thought it would last forever, and of course nobody really heard of him again after it. But no, I think he does a decent job. You know, he's no Sean Connery, but he does a decent job.
Sorry, ma'am.
The garlic thing is a bit of an urban myth.
Is that an urban myth?
Or something. Yeah, that was blown out of proportion with it there.
Then, of course, it was, accused me of eating garlic before love. It was just so petty and ridiculous. I didn't.
And I think by his own admission, he said he was, you know, acting like a star before he was a star and was quite arrogant. And he obviously learned from that. But, I mean, is his acting in this movie great? No. Mostly, it's fine. On occasion, he comes across as a bit stilted and wooden. But as you say, yeah, in the action scenes, and I would also add, I think the romantic scenes with Tracy, he's great. He really is. And I think he maybe shows a more sensitive side to Bond compared to how Connery would have played it with the more machismo, you know.
I love you. I know I'll never find another girl like you. Will you marry me?
Version of Bond, but he's definitely got the Bond swagger, and for me, it's a bit of a shame I actually never got to see him do another movie and see how he would have developed with acting experience, and you know, he would have obviously continually improved and become more comfortable. So it's a bit of a shame we never got to see him develop.
Sir, I have the honor to request you will accept my resignation, effective forthwith.
Resignation from what?
Her Majesty's Secret Service. And kindly present us that monument in there.
And you mentioned as well Diana Rigg, the Bond woman of the piece. What do you think of her character, Tracy, and Rick's performance?
She's brilliant. One of the best Bond girls. I just like you were saying there about George Lazenby, and you can't understate that him showing that vulnerability. That's one of the things that makes the movie arguably the best Bond movie, because it's just the connection between the two even if they didn't necessarily get on, the two actors, the love interest, and you can imagine them being together and all the montages of them, all that stuff, and it does look like they're a couple.
I think you're in some sort of trouble. Would you like to talk about it?
No, Mr. Bond. The only thing you need know about me is that I pay my debts.
20,000 francs is a lot of money.
And other than maybe Casino Royale, you don't really see that connection really maybe with Bond, and they both show vulnerability.
No.
And who knows, maybe George Lazenby was ahead of his time in some ways in that sense, because men were men, at that point. Couldn't show emotions, and the fact that he did. So I think maybe people weren't ready for it at that time, but then fast forward 30 or 40 years, people really consider it one of the best now, because changes in society. And
I think the movie largely works because Diana Rigg is in it, as obviously a brilliant, experienced actress, and in this Bond movie, she isn't. She is one of the greatest Bond women, definitely characters. Beautiful, resourceful, damaged, tough. She is not a damsel in distress, and we empathise and we feel Bond's loss when she is killed at the end of the movie. Spoiler.
It's all right. It's quite all right, really. She's having a rest. We'll be going on soon. There's no hurry, you see. We have all the time in the world.
But they purposely hired somebody of her caliber to be the love interest in this movie because of Lazenby's acting and experience, so that they try and compensate for that. That was the reason why they got somebody of the caliber of Diana Rigg.
I know why I did it. I mean, I knew perfectly well why I'd got the job. George Lazenby was ill-equipped. He was a male model. So I was there to sort of steer him through and give it some gravitas.
You mentioned earlier on that this is a very different type of Bond movie, and actually, if you watch the trailers and advertising of the time, they actually play that up. This is a different Bond. And one of the big reasons I think for that is it was first-time director Peter Hunt, who was the editor of the previous 5 James Bond movies, so he got to take over as the director. How well do you think he does?
I think he did really well. So really, really posh. He speaks a bit like this, but he's really good. And I think that was the first John Glenn.
And it does sound like he should be flying a Spitfire, doesn't he?
Yeah. But I think he does a really good job, actually. I think just the whole feel of the film, it does look of its time, but that's what's good about it, and that's why it sticks out. Even the Bond theme, like the pre-title sequence when he shoots the screen, they're using like a Hammond organ, which was very much sort of the Doors and that era, and so that makes it sound different. And the fashion and the colours, it's a very colourful film, but I think that's what's nice about it. It's very psychedelic. All the purples, there's a lot of purple.
The casino couldn't be more purple.
There is some stuff in it that, in 2024, wouldn't be acceptable. Not that it was acceptable then, but it was more It's more it was more, you know, the bit where we're not leaving James, Dad, and he just like punches her.
Papa, where's James?
Don't worry, he'll join us soon.
But we can't leave him.
He doesn't need your help.
I will not go without
You'll
him.
have to.
Get away at the end, and
Yeah.
and then he said, "I'll give
What's
you
wrong with that, Paul?
A man should make love to her." And that's his daughter. And he's
Dominate a woman.
I know. It's like, but actually,
Yeah,
I liked his character.
I
I
know.
thought he was really good. Actually, I liked his character.
I mean, the thing with Peter Hunt, for me, it's a shame. Like Lazenby never did another. It was the same. Peter Hunt never directed another, because this is, for me, one of the best looking and directed Bond movies. I think he's inventive. There's some really beautiful shots in this. For example, the whole beach pre-title sequence is fantastic and looks fantastic with the sun setting. It looks amazing. At Pete's Gloria, the approach by helicopter at the climax, again with magic hour, the sun going down, is fantastic. I think the action is kind of hard and fast cut too, giving it a real kinetic energy. And yeah, I just think he does a fantastic job with it. And I'm going to guess, I don't know, this was deemed at the time a relative failure, which is maybe why he never got invited back again, which I think was a huge mistake on the filmmakers' part, the producer's part. You mentioned obviously using the Hammond organ in the opening gun barrel sequence. Let's talk about the soundtrack then. So John Barry is back. This is his fifth or sixth Bond movie, and where would you rank this soundtrack and, you know, across all the Bond movies?
Arguably the best. Arguably the best, I would say.
Mhm.
It just, the music, just because even you were talking there about the pre-title sequence, and the music there's great. Like one of the things that's dated a bit, but they did that with a lot of films, and they put like that speed motion thing on, you know, when they're fighting on the beach, rather than they fast forward it a bit. But I think the music just adds to that tension.
Oh yeah.
Right, when he's speaking to Tracy and suddenly the guys are behind him and stuff, and I think the music, and also it's a very romantic film, you would have to say as well, you know, like all the music.
Mhm.
So it's like, for example, Jill is my wife. It's her favourite Bond film, you know. So so it is. It's very different, and but that's what's good about it. And it's a shame George Lazenby's almost became like the Pete Best of the Bond franchise.
Look, James, I know that we haven't always exactly seen... Well, anyway, don't forget, if there's anything you ever need...
Thank you, Q, but this time I've got the gadgets. I know how to use them.
I do have the soundtrack on vinyl here, and I mean, for me, I think the two greatest James Bond soundtracks, and again, people can debate this, I actually think the two best ones are the two movies in a row, which is You Only Live Twice and On Her Majesty's Secret Service. I think they're the two greatest James Bond soundtracks, and you've got the fabulous instrumental main theme for the title sequence, and you've got, you know, the Louis Armstrong classic romantic theme, We Have All the Time in the World, which I believe was the last thing Louis Armstrong ever recorded. Obviously a song by John Barry, but yeah, very romantic, very wistful, and just that in its own right a fantastic song. So yeah, the soundtrack is absolutely top tier.
Do you think that in the UK that song was re-released in the early 90s? Do you think that played a part in maybe resurrecting the film, like that being re-released?
I think it certainly helped, yep. Yeah, I mean, I suppose you should explain for people who are not in the UK. I think it was Guinness used the song in an advertising campaign back in the 1990s. Would that be right?
Yeah.
Used it in the 1990s. Yeah, and the song then got re-released. That was not around about Christmas time. Could be making that up. But the song got re-released on the back of the advert. People obviously were wondering, what's that great song? And it was a top 10 hit, I think, here. in the 90s at some point, and I think that certainly brought it back into the public consciousness, and obviously the link to On Her Majesty's Secret Service, where maybe it did help people go back and look at it maybe with fresh pair of eyes. What do you think of the story of On Her Majesty's Secret Service then?
Yeah, it's quite good in some ways. Some people might argue the whole COVID thing. So I think it's good. I think it's what's quite good as well that I like all the people that are Pizza Gloria.
Yeah.
When you look at all the women,
Peace Gloria, which is a fantastic location, isn't it?
Oh, it's brilliant. And all the women that are there, it's interesting because there's almost like every ethnicity, but it's quite good seeing all the different people, together and all that.
Must use a lot of lemon and stuff.
Sir Hilary, please come to meet our patients.
So I quite like that, and Sir Hilary Bray. Do you know what I always found to be hearing George Lazenby's actual voice when he was trying to be Hilary Bray before it was dubbed? That would be really interesting to hear.
Is anything the matter, Sir Hilary?
Just a slight stiffness coming on.
I think this is another thing I like about it. It takes its time, the story. It's not, rushing along. It does take its time, and it is based on arguably Ian Fleming's best James Bond book, and it's actually one of the ones I've read, and it is a really good book. And I think, because it's a good story, it gives Bond a genuine love interest, who he marries and loses, and I think also Bond relies more on his wits in this rather than on gadgets, and you then get that iconic ending as well. There is no happy ending here for Bond, unlike almost all the other movies. It's just if you didn't know that was going to happen, it's a real gut punch of a climax, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it is. I sometimes think a lot of these films are the best films where you have a sad ending, because you think about Empire Strikes Back, Rogue One.
Yeah,
they're not the traditional endings, and that's why they stand out with even Batman, maybe Dark Knight.
And we mentioned Pete's Gloria a little bit already, but now is that Austria or Switzerland? That's in. Trying to remember now. Is it Austria?
I think it's
Switzerland. I can't remember which part, but I mean it's a real place, atop mountain. I think Bond goes. I'll be glad to get my feet back down on the ground again, and what's her name? Brunt, Helga Brunt. Ice, Hilary, ice. But I'd love to go there. It's on my bucket list. I would love to visit Pete's Gloria.
On the bucket list.
Imagine that's your house. How cool would that be? It'd be something else. And I think another big thing with this is obviously it's kind of set at Christmas, which just is always good. You got a movie set at Christmas and gives you a good reason to watch it each Christmas as well.
Creatures of the mall, welcome. You have all taught me a Christmas message I'll never forget. The place to get drunk is at home.
Like trimming the movie fat, why not check out our other podcast, Trimming the Musical Fat?
So where would you rank this, Paul? I suppose we normally rank these movies top, middle, or lower tier within their franchise. So for you, is it top, middle, or lower tier Bond?
Well, I think you know the answer. Top.
Where would you rank it amongst the James Bond movies? How many is there? 24 official? 25 if you include Never Say Never Again, is that right?
Maybe second.
Right, okay, so it's right up there. For me, yeah, top tier as well. It's maybe my favourite James Bond movie. Certainly in the top 3, along with Casino Royale and From Russia with Love. And you never know it, but if you could speculate if Connery had played Bond in this, it undoubtedly would be the best James Bond movie.
My name is Bond. James Bond.
I mean, how hard would that have hit if it was Connery more than Tracy at the end? I mean, yeah, brilliant movie.
Never say never again.
Okay, so that is on Her Majesty's Secret Service. Next week, Paul, we're back to look at a movie which probably won't get as much praise as this one. We're going to be looking at Never Say Never Again. So yeah, 14 years after On Her Majesty's Secret Service, we get to Sean Connery's unofficial James Bond swan song. So please come back for that, and if you do want to get in touch with us to let us know your thoughts on Bond or either of these two movies, then you can find all the ways to do that in the episode description. So we will pause for now. We'll keep our martini vodka shaken, not stirred, on ice until we're back next week. Until then, keep trimming.
Trimming the Movie Fat is a Stephen and Paul Nicholson production. We'd love to hear from you. Contact us by voicemail via the Spotify link in the episode description. You can email us at trimmingthemusicfat@gmail.com. Keep up to date with the show and access exclusive content by joining our Facebook group, subscribing to our YouTube channel, and following us on TikTok. You can also check out our website at trimmingthemusicalfat.com. Thanks for listening.